Starting from LCS, follow the traffic on Main Street. Make an easy left.
Just thinking of the World Wide Web and its pointers, every human being has these spaghetti things going out to every other computer and human being, and there's this gigantic, massive spaghetti spanning the entire globe. And if you want to find out something, how do you find it out?
The bits are moving around so fast that hardly anyone has thought to preserve them, to archive them. And the way the technology is changing hasn't helped us either. You know, a piece of paper sticks around for 500 years, and by golly, it's legible to human eyes. So it's not likely that human eyes are going to change in another 500 years. But of course, disks and memory and data formats change every couple of years.
As the huge and vastly growing human record, all the data that we as mankind are accumulating is growing so rapidly. Who has time, who has the energy, who has the resources to keep looking back and seeing if old information, still useful, is being transformed to the new media before the old media are essentially unusable?
We're voyaging into brave new worlds, digital worlds.
Go to the future.
Electronically recording, gathering, creating, and connecting a universe of information and knowledge, and making it available at our fingertips. But the sheer quantity of digitized information and the dynamics of an evolving computerized world create complex problems. One of the most serious is that we pay little attention to preserving electronic writings for the long term, to making sure that important and irreplaceable work will be saved and be available not just for our own use, but for generations to follow. What's increasingly at risk is the survival into the future of recorded knowledge, the survival of collective memory, the core of civilization, the human record. August 25th, 1992, Sarajevo. In the war for Bosnia-Herzegovina, in an act of hatred calculated to destroy collective memory and erase the culture and identity of a people, gunners targeted with hundreds of incendiary rockets the National Library. Tens of thousands of rare Islamic texts, unique 16th century manuscripts, important works of Bosnian, Croat, and Serb writers and poets, 3 million volumes, the irreplaceable history of a people, consumed in flames, even as exhausted citizens joined hands to save what they could of the soul of their city. Catastrophe has always loomed as a threat to portions of the human record, through fires and floods, earthquakes and wars, and also in the past 100 years through the slower fires of acid in the paper of printed materials. Much of the history of civilization has been damaged or destroyed. But it's not only the physical survival of recorded information that's crucial to preservation. The ability to decipher and comprehend its meaning is essential as well. For over 1,000 years, scholars tried but lacked the knowledge to interpret Egyptian hieroglyphics. Though perfectly preserved through millennia, their meaning had been lost in time. In London's British Museum, intricately carved, is a 4-foot-long black stone, over 2,000 years old. Discovered in the sands of Egypt in 1799, it is the fabled Rosetta Stone. The information the stone records is unexceptional. except for the remarkable circumstance that identical text is presented in 3 languages: hieroglyphics, demotics, and finally, readily comprehended Greek. The Rosetta Stone was the key to deciphering and understanding the writings of an entire ancient civilization. Stone has long given way to paper, and today paper is fast giving way to new means of recording and accessing knowledge.
Up to 6. Do you copy my last?
The communications complex at Goldstone in California's Mojave Desert. The huge antennas are part of NASA's deep space network, able to receive and process digital electronic signals from unmanned spacecraft millions of miles away. Since 1958, NASA space probes have been generating vast quantities of data.
Give me a call, we're unable to assign a couple of these nets because it causes some problems here.
Space missions studying the Earth's environment have generated even greater amounts of data. Information regarding ozone depletion, global warming, the growth of deserts, and other potential threats to life on the planet. Acquired at enormous cost, much of this priceless information, stored on magnetic tape, is in jeopardy.
20 years ago or more, the projects were so focused on building the spacecraft and getting the fundamental technology proven and getting to the first visit of the planets that people really didn't look at saving the data for when the mission was over. For example, Viking that went to Mars, the key part of the mission was around 1976. Well, this is 20 years later. Those tapes are decomposing. Now, that was a heavily investigated planet and mission, and a lot of people were familiar with the data, but now enough time has passed. Many of the people have retired, or it's not easy to access the tapes, and it becomes much more important to have them in an archive form.
Historically, magnetic tapes, which was the main storage media used until just 4 or 5 years ago, you can take one out of the box, record it, and then try to read it and have an error on it. That's how bad it is. And some of the conversion efforts that we've done over the last few years, we're finding 10 or 20% of the tapes have errors on them. So magnetic tape is just a disaster for an archival storage media.